Today is our User Rights Network meeting day. We're gonna start this morning with presentations of our empirical work.
We've been reviewing the copyright laws of many countries, specifically the provisions that allow researchers to use works without authorization for research purposes. If you're reviewing a large quantity of works, you might need to have a computer scan 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million works, and it's just not realistic to get authorization to make a copy each time.
We coded the laws according to this coding scheme.
At the top, we have copyright exceptions that are very open to allowing researchers to reproduce and share works without authorization. Our gold standard allows any user to use any type of work without authorization, and that use includes both reproduction and sharing. At the other end, you have very, very strict copyright laws that don't really allow researchers to do anything without authorization. Most countries kind of fall in the middle. Researchers do have some rights to make unauthorized reproductions, but usually there's different types of restrictions. Maybe only some kinds of users, maybe only some kinds of works.
What we really wanted to see was how this varies over time. And the short answer is that it doesn't vary over time a whole lot. This is an average. So this is looking at all 165 countries over 21 years. Some countries made their laws more open, some countries made their laws less open.
If you break the countries into the World Bank income groups, you see that wealthier countries tend to give their researchers a little more leeway.
You see that the high-income countries are growing slightly more permissive when it comes to what researchers can do without authorization. Upper middle countries became slightly less between 2000 and 2012, and then lower middle and low-income countries kind of been more constant than the other two groups.
Well, the hypothesis driving all of this is that we will see a situation where countries where the copyright laws are more beneficial to researchers will help the researchers create more academic work.
To what extent the openness of regulations have an impact on the amount of work done by scientists in different countries, and especially on scientific work on text and data mining. We are trying to test this statement. We built a database of text and data mining papers published between 1990 and 2020 from the Scopus major database. And with that database, we could download about 1.5 million text and data mining papers.
This is the representation of the evolution of TDM papers, then the absolute number of data mining papers each year for the whole period. And as you can see, we've experienced like an exponential growth in this kind of research.
What we try to measure about each country is two different things. The first one is the amount of scientific output that used some kind of text or data mining techniques. So papers from very, very different scientific areas that used those techniques. And second, the share of text and data mining papers over the total amount of scientific articles produced in a given country every year.
We also gathered the total scientific output for all the countries for each year from the same database.
So we fitted different models, and what we found in those models is that consistently those countries that give scientists stronger rights to access previous works, so that they are more open in terms of regulating access to previous works, also produce more papers that somehow apply text and data mining techniques. Those countries do not only produce more papers, but the papers that use those techniques represent a larger share of the total amount of scientific work in those countries. The models are very robust to the use of a lot of different control variables. What they try to do is to control for those potential intervening variables or confounders. We control for GDP per capita, for instance, in our models. We also control for the level of rule of law in different countries.
The first column represents the first model in which we just used Mike's score as the main independent variable. And as you can see, if you compare that model with the second column, which is the same model but using the control variables, the coefficients do not change very much.
So the models that control for all these variables yield exactly the same results as models that do not control for them. We conclude that the effect is quite robust. It's consistent with previous research that we had already carried out using a more limited number of countries. And now that we are using a really large number of countries, then results are exactly the same. So it looks like we have found a quite persistent phenomenon and effect.